Our starting point, though, of the discussion will be this man, Amos Wako, barred by the U.S. from entering here. He says Chapter 6 of our Constitution is very porous. Why not yours? He means integrity issues, and I'll be getting to the roundtable to discuss that with my EBO panel and the impact and the ramification that has had on the fight against corruption in the country. In the next couple of minutes, though, I'll be joined by Anthony Bulima on my far right. He is political and governance policy commentator and analyst. Thank you, Anto. I do appreciate your time. At the center is Dr. Nahashon Moitale Langat. He is a policy expert equally and sits in the board of KIPRA. I do appreciate your time, Dr. Welcome. And Edgar was the early bird here this morning. Chamage.
Missing. Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, let's start with that. And if you can have that up on there, Mr. Director, regarding, of course, what happened to Amos Wako, the former Attorney General. And here he poses the question, Chapter 6 of our Constitution is very porous. Why not yours? He is sneaking his head out of what appears to be a depiction of the U.S. border. And up is the American flag, the stars, of course, but not shaded in white, as is the case in the blue background of the American flag. And coming back, Anthony, if I may start with you. With regards to the report also released yesterday by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, it says 35% of Kenyans pay bribe to get quick services, according to that report. It said also that many Kenyans will be willing to pay taxes if they are to get faster government services. This, again, vis-a-vis what we have seen generally in the fight against corruption. Shed a light on that. Will this war be won?
Thank you, Ayub, for having me in this show. Indeed, it's a new day with new revelations. Of course, starting with what you've cited, the EACC report, that to a great extent is nothing new. Nothing new because over the years, they've been doing similar reports and trying to just give a corruption perception. I think what we need to also evaluate is whether we are making a difference. I think going by the feedback that, the outcome of that report, you realize that Kenyans are more and more willing to engage in corrupt activities in pursuit of essential services, government services, that ideally should be availed to them at no cost. And I think it's a very sad state of affair because, like I always say, we are a very reactive type of a country where we are very quick to point out that these are the weaknesses. But when it comes to responding to those weaknesses, I think we do very badly.
Okay.
And what this report should be able to tell us is that as a country, corruption is deeply getting entrenched into our blood system. And sooner or later, if nothing is done, we will lose this war. And I think there has been efforts and attempts to try and strengthen even the EACC. But every other time, this is not working because you realize that even judging by the constitutional provision that creates the EACC, it is created as an independent constitutional office to exercise its mandate devoid or outside any political or external influence. But I do not think they have lived up to those expectations. And the EACC has numerous opportunities to actively respond to some of these issues. One of those opportunities is during election time, where they are expected to clear anybody and everybody who has to contest for a political seat. But that one they don't do. We have seen situations where people have been cleared or individuals have been cleared despite very damning reports in the past. And that really is telling about even how our attitude towards some of the provisions of our Constitution, which should ideally be the uniting document. So I would want to say that this report reminds us of the situation we are facing. And this situation comes in the wake of we have existing very high-level debts. We, as a country, are witnessing skyrocketing, what is it called?
Skyrocketing.
Skyrocketing situations in terms of unemployment. And it doesn't look real. It doesn't look good for a country that thrives to compete globally.
And of course, that has annoyed the international community and equally donors. Daktari, if I may come to you at the center. The Wako revelations come at a time when 24 hours later, the EACC does release a report in which it said that Kenyans pay, 35% of Kenyans pay bribe to get quick government services. Does it point out perhaps to the slowness, the viscous nature of how the criminal justice system in the country does fight corruption, because equally in the United Kingdom we have heard some who were tried and implicated in the chicken gate scandal. They have served jail terms and are now out, yet here we still have not successfully convicted those who were implicated in 2013 procurement of the electoral services, and while their colleagues have been tried and now are out of jail. Does it point out perhaps to the rot in the system in the country that needs a cleanup?
Yeah, exactly. There is a problem with especially the prosecution, because they usually say that, I remember Maraga even lamenting that you bring me a very solid case with real evidence and I'll prosecute these guys immediately. So every now and then you try to prosecute somebody in Kenya, there is an injunction. He has a way of circumventing the justice. Now, the problem with Kenya is that, especially on the perception, on the corruption, the reason why we, after the report on corruption index in Kenya, showed that most, like that 5%, people are actually giving bribes. Now, the problem there is that it's actually with Kenyans, first of all, because as a Kenyan, you go to a public office and you think it's a favor.
To be given a service.
To be given a service. I need people to demand. Like sometimes you go to the queue and actually the person serving you is online. If you had a view from behind, you'll see that he's on a social media, he's doing this, he's liking people, he's on Instagram or wherever he is. So the line is so slow, and then there is that perception that every Friday ikifika saa tano, weekend imeanza. People should demand that I need to be served. Because it's like you go there, you are good, you don't want to cause any sin. Now, this is what is taking us now to this corruption perception index, which is alarming. We go to the issue of the U.S. where
they barred
the former Attorney General. I think this is coming, I don't know if it is timing or what. We know that Amos Wako sits in the Building Bridges Initiative, the committee of experts. And now I don't know what this timing is all about. Is the U.S. trying to discredit the members of the team or what? Okay, that is another story for another day.
Well, but maybe some also allude to wanting to, get back the government from the grip of the Chinese influence, which continues, which is actually a continental affair, not only a Kenyan affair.
But that is a very bad. I saw them protesting at the UN summit, wherever the summit is going on, the US and some allies are coming to the public and saying, we are not agreeing to this. So I think these people are trying to force us into the LGBT, where me as an African, I won't even advocate. So
is it, in your view, before I come to Edgar then, is it perhaps one that will compel the government to take up the steps of what the West might want in terms of their cultural values, or you think this is perhaps the US or the authorities in Washington having credible evidence that is linking, because the paper by Mike Pompeo did say that Wako is significantly involved in corruption. Is it a genuine fight to support the fight against corruption in the country, or this is perhaps bringing Kenya on the table to succumb to some of the Western pressure to take up their Western values?
I suspect it is more of the previous regime, the Moi regime, where Wako was actually who is who.
Okay.
Any contract between Kenya and any other country is the Attorney General who signs on behalf of the country, and he's also the advisor. So I think they are suspecting that it is coming back to haunt them, because he was strong in the Moi government, he is now becoming stronger as we go forward.
Okay.
So maybe that influence they used to use before is actually being propelled to be used again now. So there is that worry again that the work we knew with his power is again coming up to take over this again.
Edgar, if I may come to you. In 2016, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission detailed a report in which it said that a third of the national budget, that is about 600 billion Kenya shillings, goes to corruption or to private pockets. And at the time, 1 year before, in the State of the Nation address, the president ordered the stepping aside of 6 of his cabinet ministers who were implicated in corruption. In between 2013 and 17, we have heard an avalanche of cases that crop up under the Kenyatta administration and the Deputy President, William Ruto. There are many state officials who have been implicated significantly in corruption. Why Wako?
Why Wako? Some people asked that, why are you barring me from going to the US? Then they were not given reasons. They were being told, now go to the site of the US and get your reasons from there. When you come to the Kenyan administration, they are not even aware that Wako is corrupt. Yes.
Well, many people never knew.
What do you mean?
Well, there are allegations
Yes.
proven in a court of law,
Yes.
but many people even never knew that he can be linked to a mega corruption scandal that the US says is significantly involved.
In Kenya, Wako is clean. You know?
But in offshore,
Yes.
he's not.
Yeah. On the website of the US, he is dirty. and I don't know whether we should believe them or we should believe us. But what I'm saying is this: corruption fighting in the country has not been sincere. Why? Whenever you go seek government services, or some friend of mine was telling me that if you want your case to be followed up by a certain police officer, you have to fuel the vehicle.
The government vehicle.
Yes.
So that they can be able to.
Yes, so that they can be able to assist you.
So you provide logistics for the government.
I know.
So it's a double tax.
Corruption. So corruption is right down here. When you want some service, like, who doesn't know that the police bribe on the road? As in, we have come to accept corruption down here. Now, as you're saying that the issue about Amos Wako, sincerely, corruption fighting in Kenya has been a political tool. It's been used to for vengeance and war against someone. You know, so if we come to that understanding that we need to fight corruption genuinely, then we will stop using corruption fighting as a tool to topple people.
So the president's intensified effort to fight corruption is all about mere
Succession politics.
Succession politics. And what you say is political. Anthony, if I may come to you then, because there seems to be, I just want to bring about the double standardness, because I'll be also coming to Daktari with regards to how the US does play its cards when it comes to the international arena or international theater, is that after the gruesome murder of Jamal Khashoggi, the Saudi journalist based in Washington, who was also writing for the Washington Post, the afterwards commissioning by the UN report, which detailed that, or linked directly the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman for the murder of the journalist in its Istanbul consulate in Turkey, the US never took action. Donald Trump said it was all about business. They're giving us money, we're giving them war, and they're buying our machinery, so it's all about business. We don't care. That is despite the FBI, the CIA, and the Congress expressing concerns about the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, who was implicated by a UN report headed by Agnes Callamard. Do you see double standardness and perhaps the showcase of the American might and power in cherry-picking what they do and what they don't?
I think I need to first of all inform you that my background is international relations. And what you're witnessing is what we call fight for interest. All of us walk into this global arena with our own interest, you know, pursuing the interest of the state. And how you manifest that is your business. So what the US has constantly or consistently been doing is manifest and try to flex itself to stay the superpower and enjoy the superpower status that it always has. And that is why it makes it a big deal for anyone stepping on the soil of the US. That is why, for them, Amos Wako is a good target, because he's a high-profile individual within Kenya. So they want to project that a senior government official from Kenya has been banned from stepping foot in the US. I do not quite agree with their approach, because I think considering also the type of benefits that the Americans are getting from Kenya, there are certain things that if they do, they must not do it for political mileage or such type of interest. What I'm driving at is, Ayub, we are living in a space where we must either define for ourselves in terms of what it is the Kenyan interest and clearly pursue it in our foreign policy strategy, in our political endeavors, and be clear about it. That's why some of these small things that we despise locally have implications in a global platform. Like we're talking about corruption. In other countries, do you know how embarrassing it is for this type of stories to be going out there? That senior government officials in Kenya are being banned from stepping foot in the US because of corruption. It embarrasses us because the perception that is created, and it's a weapon that even the US is using in this case. I don't know to pursue what. Maybe it's a blackmail because they want a certain deal. But be it as it may, the truth of the matter is, as a country, we can put measures to avoid such embarrassing situations. And by the way, for your information, it's not the first time that this ban has been effected. I think around 2009, they did the same to WACO. And I think after some negotiations were done, they reversed on their decision. So what I am driving at, Ayub, is that as a country, and I think particularly the African continent, we must redefine our interest in the global space. Otherwise, we will forever be boxed and organized to suit the intentions of the West. And I think that is the challenge we're having. Countries like Saudi, that you've cited, and the example of the Saudi king, prince, they really know their space within the global space. They know it. And that is why even the way Donald Trump is coming, he's coming with a bit of some caution because he does not want to offend opportunities that are available within the Saudi.
For America.
Yes, for American. But look at the situation in Kenya and in Africa. We have China coming in, taking over our markets, you know, literally even doing hawking, and we still are not getting it. We just scream through TV screens and complain that China is taking over our economy, and we've seen the trend, the global trend in terms of things that are shaping up, but we are still, it looks like we're not learning enough. And I think it's about time that we interrogate our position in terms of Kenya, in terms of Africa, in terms of our foreign strategy, so that we are clear in terms of our goals. If we are relating with any country, let us relate purely on the understanding that we have interest just as much as they do. And we must reject opportunities that countries use to create a negative perception about our country. Because in as much as we do not approve of the corrupt deeds of our people, I think it's also important that we understand by the time this information leaks and it steals the headlines, it doesn't look good for Kenya.
And seeking the symbiotic relationship between countries for benefits of diplomacy. Dr. if I may come to you then, when you look at the intensified war against corruption or graft in the country by the president in 3 years' time, then he wants to achieve something. So with regards to now what is playing out in the political gallery is that further sanctions might forthcome, especially on the political players in the establishment. And the president now is divided upon how to strike that balance because many state officials will be implicated. And one that will be, for instance, a denting one or will injure the reputation of the government is someone of the stature of the former Attorney General is implicated, equally sits in the BBI task force, which was created by the president and the opposition chief, Raila Odinga. Do you think this war will be won, or is it cosmetism?
I think this war will be won, but again, with the will of the CEO of the country. The president, as the CEO of the country, should not take chances. He should actually now ask any other international friend on further evidence. You know, the funny thing about the US is that they're just banning somebody without giving. I expect them to say now in a presser that we have given the government of Kenya further evidence on this. Remember what happens to Wakina Chris Okemo and somebody who was, what was the name of this, Njoroge for KPLC?
Chicken Gate.
No, not Chicken Gate, the one for, there was offshore.
Yes, there was offshore issue that was linked to them. Among the
extradition charges.
Yes,
there was a case of extradition.
And the 191 Kenyans who equally had offshore accounts.
Yes, so, but that government now was saying, we have the evidence. You either take it or leave it. But for us, we know that there was some fishy dealings offshore, and this is the amount, and this is the evidence. Now, that's why the courts of Kenya were fighting, Akina Chris were fighting for extradition charges. So, if really the president has the heart of fighting corruption in this country, first of all, he should make sure that he gain that, that alliance should be forthcoming.
Do you think he has?
Yes, I think he has.
Well, he at some
I think
point
he
said
has.
there was a lie detector issue, there was the procurement officers stepping aside. All have come out to nothing.
But I know most of those guys were retired on public interest. A few came in. But now the procurement is another monster which need to be taken care of.
And some say this is merely a political target of all about the succession politics and not genuine fight against graft.
No, I won't go that direction, but what I know is that the people around the president should actually ensure that even the Attorney General whom we have now should make sure that any information that is getting to the president is factual, so that before you are told to step aside, there is a substantial evidence. Because I remember in sometimes back when there was a presser in State House, he said that some people should step aside. And I remember very senior government officials stepped aside, only to be cleared by the court that there was nothing, no evidence.
Okay, that was the likes of Kina Peter Mangiti, who served as the PS, Minister of Devolution, and the 23 other Kenyans.
Yes.
Edgar, if I may come to you,
Yes, sir.
the U.S. banning or barring of former Attorney General, is it a launchpad for the investigative agencies to gain more ground in terms of developing that muscle to seek successful conviction, or is it one that will create more spots, dark spots on the criminal justice system in the country, and further might be again perhaps the worrying point for many Kenyans that these investigative agencies or the institutions are incapacitated, or a case of self-incapacitation?
I think the indictment of the former Attorney General by the U.S. is going to open a loophole in the Kenyan system of finding who is corrupt and who is not corrupt. When you go outside, you are told this person is corrupt. When you come into the country, you are told this person is not corrupt. And I like the approach of Moitalel. The approach of Moitalel is very cautious in terms of talking about the government. He's part of the government. and he's very cautious. But what I want to say is we have missed it in terms of fighting corruption, Ayub. We have really missed it. And such person of the highest stature, and we are waiting for the U.S. to tell us about the reasons. And I also don't agree with Moitalel when he said that the U.S. should come up with reasons, should tell us about their findings. Sometimes it will look like it's micromanaging. It's coming too much into the country and revealing for us information. I am so sure it has evidence. And I'm so sure before it goes that way, it has thought about it very well. And as my friend has said, that everyone has interest. The U.S. has vested interest in the country. And maybe even sometimes it's just thumping and wants to call our attention to themselves, that, hey, we are still present here. But right from the top of the government to the smallest mwananchi is corrupt. Who will investigate who?
Okay.
Yeah. So Amos Wako is caught in corruption, just like any other Kenyan. So there is no person who can stand and say, "You're clean," or stand and jail someone else. The country is just messed up.
Okay.
Just a quick one. I interject and bring out a dimension that I think we are not really analyzing. I think one of the concerns that has been raised in respect to Wako's ban is, first of all, there are those who think that this equates to profiling of an individual, because by the time you get to Wako, Amos Wako has been outside government for how long? We are talking of since 2002 to 2019.
That is 17 years.
That is 17 years. Meaning, by the time the U.S. was arriving at a decision that this particular individual, they have some significant reasons to believe that he's actually been involved in corrupt activities, we are looking at Amos Wako, the Attorney General. Are we looking at Amos Wako, the Senator? And how much in terms of resources does he control as a senator?
Okay.
So it means, what that action means is that the U.S. went back to the days of the Moi regime.
When he was the AG.
When he was the AG. And that is why the questions that Kenyans are beginning to ask. If this is a genuine move, then we need to actually have seen more names, high profile and low profile, or whatever you might call them, so that we actually know, in terms of their quest or their pursuit for, in terms of helping Kenya in the fight against corruption, how far did they go? So that you don't stop at just one person. And the reason why, again, this is raising eyebrows, remember Amos Wako is one of the prominent faces in the BBI task force.
Which equally, again, perhaps lifts the curtain off the composition of the BBI itself, which was from the onset criticized.
Maybe it might not do as much
because
at the end of the day, that's a whole entire team. You have many other people in that particular
We'll come to that
task
because the BBI equally is also our subject of discussion after this short break here on the program. Yesterday, the Team Embrace movement read the riot act to those who are opposed to the handshake, and they said there was need for the country to come together and support the union between the president and the opposition chief Raila Odinga. 0791-478-990 is the number. The hashtag on Twitter is NEWDAYKE. The short SMS code is 40920. We are coming back after the short break. Stay tuned. Away from the Mike Pompeo statement on the former AG Amos Wako, we now shift our attention to the presser yesterday issued by the Team Embrace movement, which supports the handshake between the president and the opposition chief Raila Odinga. Yesterday here in Nairobi, they say there was need for the country to come together, and the union between the president and the opposition chief Raila Odinga is best to remedy the political situation in the country. And of course, it managed to end the political uncertainty of 2017 after they came together at the doorsteps of Harambee House in March 2018. Before we get the details from our EBO panel, let's take a look at what the Deputy President William Ruto said about the union of the ruling Jubilee Party, since some of the Team Embrace members who are not in support of him succeeding the president are members of the Team Embrace and are supporting the union between Kenyatta and Odinga.
A Jubilee government, we will continue to focus on uniting the country and focusing on the development of our nation, focusing on the Big Four, focusing on the Jubilee Manifesto, focusing on Vision 2030, making sure we are on course on our infrastructure development, on our education program, on our health program, and ensuring that whatever it is, all the proposals, I want to ask the people of our great country that we must have a sober, informed conversation on all the proposals that have been made from the BBI when it comes from the Punguza Mzigo, from the Ongeza Mzigo, from the Ugatuzi of the governors. All those will be subjected to sober, informed conversation so that we can agree on how we are going to move forward together as the people of Kenya.
Okay, some of the members led by Edgar, coming to you, members who led the press yesterday was the Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru, who said, we were once hostile to each other, now Kenya is headed for a rebirth as we initiate public engagements across the country, our political divide following our strong unity. But again, Waiguru, the governor, is the same person who said Raila Odinga will never test the presidency in a live television show. I mean, this camouflage of once you support A and then you support B, and then we see all this intermingling, intertwinement in the political establishment. What is the believability element here of the political establishment that the BBI can remedy the country's political sickness?
Ayub, for the first time we are seeing women coming out to rally, to go to a certain direction, a certain political direction, for the first time. And that is a gain in the country. When you go to the other side, for the first time, women are driving a certain agenda of Inua Mama. And this other side, women are fighting a certain agenda of embrace. For the first time, Waiguru and Wanga are sharing the same view and looking at the same presser for the first time. And for me, this is a plus side of our nation, that actually a woman can speak and they can be on the headlines charting a certain political engagement. Now, Anne Waiguru as a politician has been on all the sides. The first time she was elected the governor of Kirinyaga and she steered the wheel. After that, took the MCAs to William Ruto's residence to rally support for 2022 bid. I think we all remember that. She went there with every MCA and gave an opportunity for everyone to speak for William Ruto. Before that again, she said that Raila can never be president. Before that. Then right now,
Ni mweupe kama pamba, as the ODM party said, in the build-up to the Kibra elections.
yes, ni mweupe kama pamba. And I usually say when Raila says you're a thief, actually. But akisema wewe ni mweupe, wewe ni mweupe.
So he once branded her a thief
Yes.
at the NYS scandal.
Yes.
Now she has been cleansed by the same man.
Yes, and this is pure politics. That is happening, that Anwai Guru is championing. And Team Embrace has been seen to go to Team Kieleweke hand in hand in preaching the BBI. BBI has not come out. William Ruto has said, kuna punguza mizigo, kuna ongeza mizigo, kuna ugatuzi of the governors. This is pure politics. And we should see it as that.
Okay. Edgar, if I may come to you, I mean, Dr. Nahashon,
Yeah.
is all about the political script underneath the faces shown on TV and perhaps the political expression made by both Team Embrace and Team Inua Mama. We have Kileweke and Tanga Tanga. All these have a political agenda, isn't it?
Yes.
Rather than the fronting or prioritizing the needs of the common Mwananchi who feel economically deprived at this moment because of the dire economic situation in the country.
Yeah. What I know is that the situation now is more of relevance. The moment you realize you are more of irrelevant on where you come from. I can give an example of Waiguru. Waiguru is facing an imminent ouster in our place, in Kirinyaga County. There is a very strong woman rep there who was touched with the ground. He talked a lot, he moved a lot.
That is Purity Ngirishi.
Yes, Ngirishi. This woman has mastered the art of talking to the Mwananchi at the lower level and meeting with the MCAs. Now, in terms of seeking relevance, he now thinks that if you fight the deputy president or if you fight somebody at the top level, now you can now go to Raila, who is perceived as an enemy to Ruto. You will gain more relevance, and the whole of Mount Kenya will now be anchored towards you. But unfortunately, who is the loser in all this? The loser is the Mwananchi, because people need service delivery. We need to equip the hospitals, the local referral hospital, the feeder roads, and the ECD, which is mandated to the county government. So unfortunately, we have all these teams, Kieleweke, Inua Mama, Tanga Tanga, all those. Who is the loser in this? The loser is the Mwananchi, because we are, to them, the bigger picture is now the succession politics.
Okay.
And in the succession politics, we already know who will become the president. Or we already have a direction.
Who in your view?
According to my view and the view of the Uhuru Kenyatta president, who he said publicly, is Deputy President William Ruto. He said, yangu kumi na yake kumi, which we have closed
which he
that
never
chapter
emphasized ever since.
He did. I have seen him emphasize.
Because we have all the details of the president. Aside from saying that
publicly.
Okay, on three occasions.
He doesn't want to hurt the Raila.
Okay, on three occasions, then he indirectly might have politically attacked the DP William Ruto. Huyu kijana na tanga hapa on record for saying that. In Nyeri County, when he opened a new market, in Karatina, he said, "My choice or pick for 2022 will shock you guys." At the Corino Prayer Summit or conference, he said, how vijana wanatembea hapa, you need to work for the people. And he specifically was talking to the Tanga support for the DP William Ruto. I mean,
no, but what I know,
it's typhooning.
When he said Tanga, it was actually positive. I take it positively that he knew that I need this person to be my errand boy. And then the other one, errand boy who will actually succeed me. And when he said again, there's another point you said. Which was it?
Yes, that was my choice, my pick for 2022.
Will surprise you.
Okay.
And actually...
Why is it a surprise when he initially said, Why is it a surprise when he initially said he knew that?
Because there's somebody
10-10.
who is being taken for a ride, which is Raila. He's being taken for a ride, and then surprise Ruto.
Okay, who between the two has been taken for a ride?
Obviously Raila.
Odinga, Ruto?
Raila is being taken
Okay.
for a ride.
Anthony, if I may come to you, the name in itself is Building Bridges Initiative. I mean, it's a case of bridging this country from the divisions of the political spectrum, of the deep divisions of 2017 elections, which are contested hotly. But then again, going back, the Committee of Eminent Persons formed after the 2005 referendum of the Banana and the Chungwa, which released a report in 2006, a year before the elections in 2007, about issues of reconciliation, electoral reforms, and the other issues that ailed the country. 1 year later, we were at the center of another political violence and the ugly specter that shrouded the country afterwards the disputed polls of 2007. What are the guarantees and the assurances that this building of the bridges will lead Kenya post-2022? And is it all about succession politics or the real bridges that connects the Kenyan people to end ethnicity, political violence, and usher in electoral reforms?
To answer your question, I think it's both. It has a succession angle, but it also has probably a genuine intention to try and create a bridge for Kenyans to reconcile. And I think we've cited situations where evidently people who are political foes are now beginning to integrate and share political podiums. And Kibra was a very good example of what building bridges can achieve, going by even what the president recorded in Sagana, that unlike before, it was possible for Maina Commander to actually stand on a podium in Kibra and champion for a candidate.
An ODM candidate.
An ODM candidate. This is unheard of in Kenya. So there are good things that are coming from BBI. But I actually think for a moment, if I was to play the devil's advocate, that Kenyans are being played. All these people appear to be reading from the same script, and I will tell you why, including DP Ruto.
Okay.
He's well aware, because you cannot tell me someone at the level of a deputy president was not aware that a handshake was taking place, and the implications of that handshake would be X, Y, Z. Number two, there are formations that are shaping up slowly, and people are not conscious about those formations. Because the politics in Kenya is such that individuals shape the political landscape.
Okay.
And individuals are created in Kenya. At one point, William Ruto was just the chicken seller, then he became a cabinet secretary, then he graduated to become a powerful cabinet secretary, now he's the deputy president of Kenya. Anne Waiguru started as just a cabinet secretary. Then she became a powerful cabinet secretary. Now she's governor of Kirinyaga. And heir apparent, almost becoming the team leader of Embrace. And the agenda of women is slowly and slowly beginning to infiltrate the political scenery. And people are beginning to demand for a more prominent role for women to play. Isn't it telling that the team Embrace is determined to constantly shape Waiguru as a leading women figure who can negotiate on behalf of the women? So what if this thing we're calling BBI creates a report with a structure that accommodates women? How attractive would that be? From my reading, I would argue that the smart one here is President Uhuru Kenyatta. He's looking at an environment where he inherited a government.
Yes.
He was able to transact as he had envisioned because of the political temperatures in the country. So he realized that for me to govern in my second term and govern effectively, I need a quiet Raila Odinga.
Therefore, reaching out.
He went and reached out. Don't forget that we could not predict what would have happened after the swearing in. Remember, Raila Odinga was sworn in as a people's president in a well-attended rally in Uhuru Park. Kenyans forget that. This is an individual who commands a lot of influence across across our country. So what there is, and what this BBI probably hopes to achieve, is accommodate the divergent influence of the various political formations. And having said that, you cannot dare ignore one William Samoei Ruto, because he also commands a following. And that following has to be on the table. What has been happening in the past? We've been having a lot of people cooking. They prepare the food.
Yes.
Then others just are invited to eat from the spoils. Now, we are in a Kenya where everybody wants to be on the negotiating table. And they're coming in their own formation. So women, and that's why Team Embrace constantly is engaged in this conversation, to the extent that now they're even reading Riot Act. Because what they want is ultimately to negotiate their bargain. I think people already have an idea of what the BBI outcome would look like.
Yes.
There are already thoughts that there would be an expansion of the executive. So everyone is fighting to fit in within that expansion. And women are not willing to be left outside. And that's why you're saying, unlike before, we are now seeing a more prominent role that women are playing. The only people or the only category of people that I am worried for are the young people. Because most of us are just being used either as cheerleaders, sycophants of this political class, and we are missing out on a very important opportunity for us to also negotiate. Because you tell me, what very proactive youth formation is negotiating on behalf of the young people? The women will actually get a share of this cake. I can tell you for sure.
Okay, but the young people?
The young people will be on the menu. And we will be eaten and eaten well.
Okay.
But unless we redefine our role. Because we are a majority. Going even by the census. I think it's about time we awaken and actually tell ourselves what is in it for us. Let's pull the Malemas of South Africa and whatnot. We would get a good deal. But if we continue keeping quiet, because politics is about relevance. Waiguru and her team are constantly engaged, championing the BBI, so that when the outcome comes, they will say, we were part of the people who agitated for this. So give us our share, and they will be given their share. It could be Deputy Prime Minister 1, it could be Deputy President, it could even be Prime Minister in the event Raila leaves the equation.
Okay, perhaps maybe again that is to remedy the aspect of the gender balance here, because it flopped 4 times at the floor of the House because of the quorum hitch in a parliament. Edgar, if I may come to you then, the constant factor here and the variable factor. It's all about the stakeholders coming on board. About 82 stakeholders have presented their reports to the Building Bridges initiative during the course of the report preparation across the country. In your view then, do you see this perhaps as the remedy point, or do you have doubts, or do you express so? And if that happens, then young people will have the upper hand in terms of the voter bloc formation of the lion's share. Will 2022 be a time for political paradigm shift in Kenya?
Ayub, I don't think so. I don't think that, as he was saying, that we as young people have even a stake at the BBI document or at the leadership level of the country. But before I go there, what if the other divide of the political divide was silent?
That is?
That is Waiguru. What if there was no Waiguru from Mount Kenya championing for Raila? What if there was no Resho Shebesh from Mount Kenya, because she's from there, championing for Raila? Would Raila be sleeping too much? Are these lullabies to make him sleep too much? Because the president needed a silent nation to develop this nation. But in another way, I tend to value the support of Waiguru to Raila, because Raila feels now comfortable, seated, when Maina Commander comes up with guns blazing, supporting him. That aside, what you have asked, as the young people, we are not angry enough. As young people, we have not taken the mantle the way it should be taken. As young people, we are waiting to be remembered so that we can speak. We don't even want to remind them that we are here.
We exist.
That we exist. Okay. So right now we are complaining about unemployment. We are complaining about many things that are happening that are not favoring us. And we are waiting for so and so to wake us up. We go to the internet, we shout with our highest voices. We walk around in the streets with placards and nothing happens. It is now high time. We open our eyes and we now form workable solutions for inclusivity in front there. Otherwise, we are cooked.
Okay.
Yes.
Dr. Hari, if I may come to you. Young people gathered in Uhuru Park about 2 months ago. They were tear-gassed. And what they complained about were economic issues, unemployment, the government side-dialing, marginalization, and the aspect of under-acknowledgement and under-appreciation by the government. In that regard, then, what do you think is holding back the young people's involvement in the policy-making process in this country and be counted? Where do you think we are lacking, and how do we draw that line as young?
I think as young people, we have a problem. There's a very big problem with us because we haven't actually demanded because everybody is from somewhere. I come from a board where I'm representing the youth in a board at the National Treasury. And it didn't come like that. I grabbed it. I demanded, I asked for it, and it came. So now, the problem with the youth is what my friend has said, that it's either psychophancy or we don't know what we really want. Because the youth that really come out very strong, all of a sudden you find them, their allegiance or their psychophancy is towards somebody, not towards the youth. Because now we usually have a lot of conferences. I've been even invited to Cairo for some youth summits. Got there, you are given a very nice flight, business class, all those. But when you reach there, you forget that you are representing a very big or a huge mass of youth. So what I really want to urge, to encourage myself, also encourage the youth, is that wherever you are given a platform, talk on behalf of the youths and tell you, I like the way my colleague here said, as youth, we need to really chart our own way.
Okay.
Even the president himself, I was checking at the advisory committee of the presidents. There's the advisors, president and the deputy president, and various ministries. It's very hard to get a youth advising the presidency
including
on matters youth.
Including Joseph Kunyo, who is a retiree now. And he's head of public service. Okay, Anthony.
That's my boss.
If I may come to you on the last note here. Boss. Touching the live wire. Yes, Anthony.
I think what there is, Ayub, is we must recognize that there's a huge wave of change that is going to sweep our country in the coming days. And how you position yourself will determine where that wave takes you. It will land some people in the ocean, and they will be eaten with sharks. It will land some people in what they call Canaan, in the land of milk and honey. But it will also leave some people displaced. And I think it would be a sad state of affair if the majority of those people are young people. My urge is that we must redefine this course, and we must be clear in our mind, what is it that we are asking for? Of late, there has been numerous government appointments that does not necessarily reflect the dire need to put young people into employment. And that doesn't look well in terms of the future, because those are signs of what is coming. I think we need to be a bit more proactive and ensure that our participation is more meaningful, because you cannot quite say young people are not involved. They are involved, but in rallies, that's not meaningful engagement. We need to demystify our participation in this political space and make it a bit more meaningful and attractive. You know, change the whole thing. Organize ourselves instead of agonizing and saying, as young people, would like to steer Kenya to the next level. We had complaints when they were creating the BBI task force because it doesn't embody a composition that reflects well of where we want to go as a country. It misses out on the opportunity to bring the freshness in terms of the ideas of youth. Because the composition is people who carry the historical perspective of Kenya. What about those who have a futuristic idea about what Kenya should look like? And that is you and me, Ayub, because we must accept there are people who are young and now they are old. They have experienced young and they are now experiencing old. We will get there and also experience old age. But for that now, allow us to manifest who we are, the visionary self, the ambitious and aggressive attitude, so that this country looks better than what it is. Because I think a lot of what is happening does not reflect well of a country that we would be proud of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Especially when the lion's share of the population is made up by young people, including the appointments you said.
Yes.
That included the appointment made by the government of a dead person.
And let's borrow a leaf from the women. They're doing well.
So that we can create a space for ourselves.
Let's also read our riot act
and
categorically state.
And Daktari did mention about the trip to Egypt, the business class. But besides that, you went to a country where the young people led to the 2011 spring, the Arab Spring in Tahrir Square that led to the old staff, Hosni Mubarak, who has been in power for more than 30 years. And that again explains the other end, Ikikumana. Thank you, Edgar. Thank you, Dr. Nahajun, and thank you, Anto. I do appreciate your time. We have to end there, but Linda will be here in a couple of minutes' time. She will be talking about the issues that pertain mental health in men. And of course, our case in point will be Ivy Wangeshi that happened in Eldoret in Uasin Gishu County, and equally what transpired in Nanyuki when a husband killed the wife and his kids, which is unfortunate in the society setup, especially in the African value system. The number is 0791478990. The hashtag on Twitter is NEWDAYKE. The short SMS code is 40920. I'll be seeing them off. Linda will be here in about 2 minutes' time. Stay tuned for that discussion. Good morning.